Okay. So now we go into the next section of the text. We're going to go first into the center of the text, and also we'll talk about the element of grace in the Song of Songs. All right, so the center of the text is found, I'm never sure exactly of the chapter 4 or 5, let me take a look, chapter 5, verse 2. Okay, everybody go to chapter 5, verse 2. How many of you are there? Put your hand in the screen. Okay, great. All right, good. Okay, now let me talk a little bit about the center of the text, the meaning of that in Hebrew literature. In general, right? In Near Eastern literature, the center of the text is the most important. This is where you will find the key to the text. This is where everything is supposed to be revealed, right? In the Western, when we write, right, as Westerners, we tend to put the real meaning at the end, conclusion of a long argument, right? We have an argument and then boom, conclusion, and that's the meaning. In the Near Eastern literature, the Hebrew literature, Egyptian literature, all this whole region, they tend to have a different architecture in the way that they compose the text. And for them, it goes like this, right? And when you get to the center, you know that you have the most important part. This is where the author will reveal the key to the whole book, right? So as we get into the center, we should be excited. This is maybe the moment where they get married, or maybe the moment when he proposes, right? We're expecting climax, right? We're expecting a big climax where finally maybe they consume their love for the first time, you know, we don't know. And instead, what do we get in chapter 5, verse 2? What is the story that we have? Instead of a grand, you know, happy ending, consummation of the love, first kiss, what do we have instead? Anybody remember that story? Chapter 5, verse 2 until 6? We have a climax. Is it a good story? Happy?
the man is trying to sleep with her or be intimate or something, and she's just like no, like my coat is on, I'm not gonna take it off now.
Exactly, such a strange story. By the way, this is the first time the man finally makes a move. Finally, she has been running after this guy for 5 chapters. Finally, he arrives. He makes a move. He knocks on her door, right? Finally, he has developed strong desire for her. She's been waiting for this. And what does she do? Oh, I'm too tired. I took off my shoes. Must I put them on again? She's all sluggish. She's not coming to the door. So he pounds on the door, right? By the way, the word in the Hebrew is pounding, right? Slowly she gets there. By the time she gets there, do they have a beautiful heart-melting kiss? What happens when she opens the door?
The watchmen are outside and they attack her.
Before the watchmen.
Oh.
Where's the guy? Is he there waiting for her with arms stretched?
No, he's not
Gone.
He's gone. Okay, so we have this is the center of the book. This is supposed to be the climax, and instead we have this completely anticlimactic story of the guy trying to get in and the girl not wanting to let him in, and then when she finally gets to it, he's gone, he's disappeared. Horrible story, right? And yet it is the center. So there must be some very important meaning in that passage, which we need to decipher. So first of all, we need to stop a little bit and ask ourselves what is going on. So let me ask you this. The woman is so slow to respond, but does this mean she doesn't love the guy? How do we know that she might still love him? There's a clue in the text in chapter 5, verse 2.
Well, she says that my beloved is knocking, so like she still cares about him, and also she does end up opening the door, so she didn't give up on him.
And then in verse 2 also, the very beginning, exactly, right?
It says she's sleeping, but that her heart is still awake.
Okay, very good. So we sense here there is some ambiguity. Her body is sleeping, but her heart is awake. We'll talk about this in a second, right? But okay, so she's responding, but not, she's responding in this kind of blocking him, but not because she doesn't love him. So what is happening? What are we learning here about the man, about the woman? What are we learning about these two? What are we, let me try and find my notes for this.
Could it be that she, in the beginning, she like gave all of herself and she was like completely open, and now it's just like 180 degrees opposite, and she's playing like hard to get and everything?
So yes, there's definitely this element that she might be playing hard to get, right? So all of a sudden now she's been running after this guy, and now she's so tired that when he finally shows up, she doesn't know what to do. By the way, this is good advice. This is a good story for those of us who always hounding the person, right? A lot as women, sometimes we do this, right? We always texting them, hey, how are you doing? And then they don't respond, you know, and then, you know, we continue, hey, right? And then finally they come, but by that time we're so bitter that they rejected all of our moves that we don't respond, right? This is a good lesson. Don't do anything, but when the guy does come towards you, be ready. That's what we're learning here. The woman, instead of being ready, was too proactive, right? And then she missed the opportunity. That's one way to see it. There's something else. There's something here that has to do, this is an encounter that they miss because of a difference in timing. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? The man seems to be too quick, the woman too slow, right? What is happening? What are we learning here about the man, about the woman, about the timing of the man, about the timing of the woman? What are we learning here? What's going on? Why do they miss each other? And how could they have avoided it? Anybody know? So the man is fast, the woman is slow, but in some ways the woman is fast and the man is slow. Can anyone tell me which one it is? Where is the man fast? Ready. Yes, very good, right? So first of all, we notice the man here is ready. Mostly he wants to come into the room. He's ready physically. He's pounding on the door. The woman, on the other hand, is very slow. She's like, oh, I don't know, maybe later, right? And so forth. Finally, she comes to the door. She opens the door. She's ready. And the guy has gone. What does this tell us about the guy? He's ready physically, but where is he not ready?
Emotionally.
Mentally.
Mentally or emotionally. Very good, right? So we know something about the man already. Physically, he's fast. Emotionally, he's slow. Now the woman is exactly the opposite. Physically, she's slow, but emotionally, she's fast, right? In other words, the woman is ready faster emotionally than physically. The man is ready physically faster than emotionally. To understand this is to avoid 1,001 misunderstandings, right? For example, let me give you an example. Suppose you're a guy and you've been dating a few weeks or whatever, and now you feel I need to make my move, right? I have to make my move. You make your move and you get rejected. There are two reasons this would have happened. What's the first? Well, actually, there's probably, if you've dated for several weeks, there's only one reason this happened. Why the woman reject you? After all this time, you've given her flowers, taken her out, paid for her meals, and now you're making your move, and she rejects you. What's going on? Okay, Hakimian. You waited too long to make the move. That could be. Yes. Yes, or it could mean something else. But now, yes, I was going to say maybe that, but if she's been dating him for all this time, then it's probably not that. Can I? You want to add?
Did he present himself as if he was trying to buy her?
No, he was nice, sweet guy, made his move, but she rejects him. Made his move maybe after the second week. Okay, so she could be leading him on, practicing the arts of seduction. Yes, that's true. But why now? Right, exactly, Sumaya, right? So in other words, he might have made the move too soon, right? Or she's not ready for that move. And so the man immediately feels rejected. Why did she refuse me? Why doesn't she want to go on this trip with me? Or why doesn't she want me to come to her apartment? Or why doesn't she want me to meet her parents, right? And all of a sudden you feel rejected, right? And you feel, well, maybe this is not the one. Actually, what is happening is that you have to understand the rhythm of the woman is different. Physically, she is slower to manifest, right? And so that can help already with the rejection. So there's an invitation here to the man to slow down, right? Physically, to allow the woman to get used to him, to awaken to him, to grow to awaken physically, right? So this part we know, this has been taught, but there's another part which has to do with the man's slowness. Where is the man slow? What did we say?
Emotionally?
Exactly. And this is the part we often miss, right? Now, we are all as women saying, well, the man should respect my rhythm. And if I don't want, you know, to be intimate right now, he should respect that. And that's what the text is saying, right? The text is an invitation to the man to say, well, the woman has a different rhythm. And one way to love her is to accept that rhythm and be patient, right, with the woman. Now, there's the opposite is also true. Very often, the man is slow emotionally, meaning he is slow to commit. And many women, when they are faced with that, they immediately jump to the conclusion, they and their girlfriends, right? Because we always go to the worst people when we have a problem, our girlfriends. And they're going to say, well, this man, he's immature and he's not worth it and he's playing you and he's not interested in you. And it could be true, right? But it could also be that the man needs more time emotionally, just like you need more time physically. The man needs more time emotionally. And there's also an attitude of respect to be had towards that. Instead of immediately dismissing the man, oh, he's immature and he's, you know, he's a baby, you know, and we have all kinds of words about this kind of man who can't commit in a timely fashion, right? I think it was, she's not here today, I think, but last time we had Suleiman talking about the 6 months. Right? If after 6 months the man is not ready to commit, get rid of this guy, right? What we're learning here is that we ought to also respect the man's rhythm, and some men need more time. Now, it doesn't mean you give them, you know, until you're 90 years old, but it does mean that to love them is also to learn to respect that timing, right? And not to pressure. Let me tell you a funny story about pressuring someone to commit. This was a gorgeous girl. She was from Puerto Rico. She had this big curly hair, blue eyes, really nice. And she had this guy kind of, you know, circling. And they were, you know, dating for a while, but he had trouble, you know, committing. He was slow. And one day, you know, she took things, you know, she took matters in her own hands, and she said, either you commit or you're out of my life. The guy was, you know, horrified. You know, he left, and he went and bought flowers, and he came and he was like, here, I'm ready to commit, you know. 2 weeks went by. Guess what happened?
You broke up with him.
Yes, he fled, right? So this is also, right, what we're learning in this text, why they couldn't connect is because neither of them was capable of attuning themselves to the rhythm of the other. The man was rushing physically, and the woman was not able to wait, right, for the man when he disappeared, right? So we have this invitation, and this is the key. This is why I think this is in the center of the book. We have here a lesson as to what it means to love, right? To love is not just to have fuzzy feelings for the other, right? To love is also to show respect for the other person's rhythm. Do they need more time to open up physically? Do they need more time to open up emotionally? As a man and as a woman, we are invited to respect our beloved's rhythm. And the highest act of love, and we said this in the first hour, is the audacity, the courage to wait for the other, right? There's a beautiful text by Simone Weil called Waiting for God. I think there should be another text called Waiting for the Beloved, right? Because this is the ultimate act of love, to wait, because this is really the only way you can nurture the other person, is to learn to be there, to be present without forcing, right? This is what we're learning here in this chapter, right? The art of nurturing, being there, cultivating the seeds of the other person's love, waiting for them to blossom, to awaken, either physically or emotionally, and going along with their rhythm, attuning ourselves to their rhythm. And notice, by the way, there's a cool Chinese saying that says this. I'm going to write it in the chat. This is a little tongue twister. It says, the man is cold on the inside. Let me write it down. Inside, can't write. All right, today, inside and hot on the outside. And then it says the woman, however, is hot on the inside and cold on the outside. Okay, anybody understand the meaning of this?
Means like cold on the inside means like emotionally cold, like you have that.
Yeah.
It needs to grow from you, like you don't have it right away. Then hot on the outside is like physical.
Very good. Right? The man is emotionally is colder. Woman physically is colder. Man physically is hotter. Woman emotionally is hotter. In other words, we can warm each other up. Right? The woman can slowly teach the man to open up emotionally. Right? There is a way we have to act. You know, I want to emphasize this because we emphasize a lot how the men should act and how they're losers and they don't understand anything, but we don't understand much either. Right? So we know that the man has to put the woman at ease physically, right? To go slow, take your time, grow together, and so forth. And we'll talk about that in the last lecture with Irigaray, right? How to do this, right? So we know that physically the woman needs time to awaken. She needs, you know, to feel cherished, and she needs to feel loved, and the man needs to go gradually physically. But the same is true emotionally. Just like we expect foreplay from the man physically, the man needs foreplay from us emotionally. In other words, if you're always criticizing him, if you're always complaining about what a loser he is, if you're always trying to control his life, if you're always, you know, pressuring him or manipulating, how is he going to open up emotionally in that climate of negativity? Do you see what I'm saying? Just like we don't want a man to just, you know, barge into our lives physically and do his thing and don't even look at us, right? We don't like that. The man likewise emotionally is as fragile as we are fragile sexually, right? He needs the right environment to be able to open up. And if you're the type of woman who is critical or complaining or depressed about being with this man, right? Or there is a climate which is not good, it will be difficult for the man to open up emotionally. And you can cry all you want, you can make all the ultimatums you want, you can criticize all you want. He cannot commit to you in that situation. And so I would like to introduce the notion of emotional foreplay, right? We have the physical foreplay, which we as women need to be able to open up physically, but the man also needs from us emotional foreplay. How kind are you with him? How loving? Do you build him up or do you tear him down, right? Do you criticize him or do you show that you have admiration and respect for him, right? This is all the ingredients that the man's heart needs to awaken. And that's what we're learning here. We are learning to attune to each other's rhythms and to cultivate the blossoming of each other's bodies and hearts, right? And the woman can help the man awaken emotionally, just like the man can help the woman awaken physically, right? Ultimately, the man is the one who knows this, right? He can awaken the woman, but emotionally, the woman can also awaken the man. We also have the tools to be able to do that, right? We are not helpless. Okay, any questions on this section of the patience, rhythm, attunement, waiting? By the way, if at any moment of my lecture you have objections or you feel like, I don't think this works, or I have a counterexample, please bring those, right? Because that will help me develop what I'm saying, right? Anytime you have a counter argument, make sure I know about it, right? Because this will help me go deeper in the text and go deeper in what I'm trying to teach. So anytime you have a counterexample or you don't agree a little bit with what I'm saying, I want to hear about it. Okay, last section. Let me see how much time we have left. Grace in the Song of Songs. This is the last section. Okay. Everybody knows grace, right? Grace is undeserved love. Chesed, right? In the Hebrew. Love is always undeserved. True love is always over the top. It's always too much, and the other person never deserves it. Just put that in your minds once and for all, and you'll be good. Because we have in our Western society, the capitalistic society, we have a business mentality. I give you this, but you got to pay that. If you don't pay up, I'm taking it back. right? So here we have a different view. The woman she's a very bad businesswoman, right? She is over the top. She's giving too much, right? And yet, right, we see that the love in the end succeeds. Now, this is quite extraordinary. Remember I told you in the beginning, I said, if I was the writer of this text from patriarchal society, I would give a bad ending, right? Because they're crazy, they're breaking all the rules, they're making all kinds of mistakes. I mean, if I want to teach the youth how to love, I can't give these two a happy ending because then everybody's going to do that, right? So I don't want people to love like that. I want people to be wise and, okay. But what we see here, look at it towards the ending. What is the ending? Not the ending, but see when there's a second climax in the text, chapter 8. This is towards the concluding words of the text, right? Go to chapter 8, verse 6. This is another climax, right? Everybody in chapter 8, verse 6, put your hands up. Okay. All right. Okay, so here we are towards the end. We have gone through a lot, right? Infidelity, mistakes, you know, the guy disappeared, he came back, and so forth. And finally, we get to chapter 8, and we have a very strong statement, right? Chapter 8, verse 6, bind me as a seal upon your heart, a sign upon your arm. In other words, the seal is a sign of possession, right? The seal means that we are bound, you are mine and I am yours, in other words, right? For love is as fierce as death, is jealousy bitter as the grave, even its sparks are a raging fire, a devouring flame. In other words, we have now reached, throughout all of this infatuation and this craziness and all of their, you know, crazy loving, right? We have reached a moment of love which is as strong as death. They have this is the one dimension of depth. This is the one more deep moment of the text, right? So here's my question, right? These guys have made every mistake in the book. Let's make a list, right? These two were not supposed to succeed. Let's make a list why. Give me a list of all the problems of the woman. I'm listening and I'm putting it in the chat. What's the first thing that the woman, fatal mistake?
She took charge of the relationship.
She what?
She took charge of the relationship.
I can't hear you good.
Can you hear now?
Yes.
She took charge of the relationship.
She took part?
Charge. Like she
Oh, yes. Very good. Right. The woman is controlling. Very good. She's too fast. Yes. She revealed herself too quickly. She's not supposed to. That's not the art of seduction, right? What else is this woman doing wrong? I think that's it. That's the main one.
She's very fast.
Yes. I put that too fast. Okay. I didn't put it. There it is. Too fast, controlling, revealed too much. Yes, she's desperate, needy, clingy. It's terrible. If you're a guy, it's like, oh God, right? So she is really making every mistake in the book. Everything I've been teaching, the art of seduction, discretion, modesty, the rhythm. She doesn't do anything. She's doing everything wrong, right? She's making mistake upon mistake. What about the guy? What are some of the fatal mistakes he makes?
He's also too quick physically.
He's what?
He's slow.
He's ready to charge physically. Oh.
You know, I can't hear nobody. Say it again.
He's ready to charge physically.
Okay, he's too fast too. What else? He's not subtle. Okay, yes. He's a cheater. Yes, what else? He's unfocused, immature. I'll help you. Right? All of these things. So this guy's, you know, if you were the mom, right, of that girl or the girlfriend of that girl, be like, come on, he's immature, he's a cheater, he's moving. You don't want to be with a guy like, you can do better, right? So both of them are absolute catastrophes, right? And they're too young. Yes, that's the other thing. They're too young. They shouldn't be doing this at all. Right? So we are seeing a text where the lovers have made every mistake in the book. And yet, now this is the key, their love succeeds. And I want to know at this point is how they did it again. right? Because this is very interesting, right? The fact that they make every mistake in the book, and normally they should fail, right? If I was the writer of this book, I would have made them fail so that now we go back to doing things the right way, right? Remember, she's taking the initiative. It's an interracial relationship. They're breaking all the rules of courtship. They're making huge mistakes like cheating and being controlling, and yet they succeed. So my question is, how did they do it? Can anybody tell me what is their secret? Why did they make it in spite of all of their imperfections? Zigal.
I think at the end of the day, if the love is real enough and they really do care for each other, like what it says in chapter 8 and verses like 6 and 7, if it's real and they really, really do love each other, then it should work itself out, even though they have many problems.
And what tells me that their love was real? Yes, Tessia Miller. This is the first one. There's two things they did. Number one, they stuck with it. Let me talk a little bit about that, right? This is so important. We have become so incapable of doing this, right, in our culture. As soon as there's one sign of trouble, we call it a red flag, right? And when there's a red flag, I should leave, right? We have been so conditioned, right, to think of the lover, of the beloved, as something which should, somehow be this entity that brings me happiness, right? This perfect car, this perfect outfit, right? And we are incapable at the first sign of trouble of standing our ground. We have lost the ability to do this. Our grandparents could do it, but we have forgotten how to do this. First sign of trouble, we leave, right? And when we leave, we miss something very important, right? We miss what the relationship could have become, which is where they are. Imagine if the woman had left at the first sign of cheating, right? This is in chapter 2, right? First sign of cheating, chapter 2. Imagine if we never would have had that story, right? We never would have had that, the beauty of the way that the story moves them forward, right? And so we often miss our own lives. We often miss the own story of our lives by checking out too soon because we want Disney, right? We've been conditioned by Disney movies that's supposed to be like Disney. And if it's not like Disney, this ain't right, right? We want Disney, but we're not willing to put in the time, right, to have the Disney ending. Yes, we've become cautious, we've become, and so forth. Agira, you want to add something?
It's like we want to have the perfect and without any problems, without any kind of a small defect in the other person. That we, for example, if we find some defect, we are like, no, I don't want you anymore. Like, I want to go and find another person that doesn't have this defect as you. And we are running around looking for the good person, but we don't find it until we ended up with somebody that have all of the defects in the world.
Exactly, right? We always think we can do better, right? This is like the idea that somebody is disposable. We'll talk about this mentality of disposing. The Beyonce song, right? To the left. Disposing of this guy or girl, right? And we have forgotten, right? Everything we could become and experience if we just stuck it through, right? The moment imagine if we arrived in the winter season, right? And we decided this is horrible, I'm not gonna wait through this winter. What would we miss?
Spring.
Exactly, right? Absolutely. We don't understand that love stories go through all kinds of crazy twists and turns. And at the first turn we check out, we're going to miss the whole story. We're going to miss our own lives, right? I'm looking at one of the comments. This couple stands strong together in today's time. Yeah, today we are not capable, right, of doing this. This is why we have to read these ancient texts to remember other paths to love, right? Absolutely. So this is the first thing. Hakimian, would you like to add?
Yeah, like you say that one of the reasons they succeeded was because they stuck with it, but like, to what extent can you really stick with something without it being like abusive or like just like unacceptable? And like, how far do we take it before we like give up? Like that's my question. And another question I have is like, you said their love succeeded even though they made so many mistakes, but like, what if there are more mistakes, and like, can love really conquer all? And like, what about the outside world? Like life happens, and like, I don't know. I just think it's like a little naive to say that like they stuck with it so it worked.
Okay, very good. This brings us, we need the second point, right? This one is not enough. The second point is they stuck with it, but we know many couples who stick with it and they look horrible. We don't want to be them, right? We don't have to look far. Our families have couples like that, right? They've stuck together for 40 years, but you can't be around them. They're fighting all the time. The person, they're cheating. It's a mess, right? So sticking together is not enough. There is something else that the lovers are capable of, which has to be added. What else are the lovers capable? In other words, yeah, what else are the lovers capable of in addition to sticking it out? What else do you see them doing? That is the key to their success.
Maybe compromise?
What?
Compromise?
Almost. Almost. Let me ask you this question. Is the woman the same in the end of the story as she is in the beginning?
Maybe changing for each other then?
No.
Exactly, right? Absolutely, both of you are right? The humility to change is the second point, right? So the first point is they stick with it. And the second point is they have the humility. Humility to change. In other words, it's not enough to stick with it. How capable are you of changing for your beloved, right? In other words, we see how they both change for the other. It's not that they feel forced to do it. It's that they, in a way, the love has created the environment which makes it possible for them to change, right? The woman never forced the man to commit. She didn't change him, right? She created the environment where he was able to begin to change and come into focus. And likewise, the woman changed. She was clingy, she was controlling, but the man forced her in a way. Didn't force her, didn't tell her stop being clingy. It's just that the way that he was acting taught her, right? So this is the second thing. How capable are we to not try to change the other, but to allow the other to change us? And this is where things become very interesting, right? So let me say that again, right? How capable are we not to try to change the other? We're all capable of that, right? But this is not about changing the other, right? So imagine an abusive relationship or a difficult relationship, right? Where we want to change the other and how long should I wait for the person? It's not about, right? It's more about how can I allow the relationship to change me? And this is something which most of us have a difficult time with, right? We can stick it out, but we don't want to change, right? And if we don't want to change, what we're learning here is we're not ready, right? If we're not willing to make changes for the sake of our beloveds, we are not ready for the love, right? What we need to understand often is that the love is really like a crucible. What is a crucible? Can anyone tell me what is a crucible? It's chemistry or
Sulfur?
no, that's an element you put in the crucible. But what's the crucible? Nobody knows what is a crucible. Where are my chemistry students or alchemy students? The crucible is the container in chemistry where you put all the elements and make little explosions. That's a crucible. In the ancient process of alchemy, I'm sure you've heard about it, right? Where they were trying to change lead into gold, right? So they would take lead and they would put it in a crucible over fire. And then they would add different elements and see if the reactions would purify the lead and make the thing into gold. When I talk about the relationship being like a crucible, I'm saying the relationship has the power to transform your lead into gold. You come into the relationship a certain way, but if you allow it, you can come out pure gold, right? No matter what is going on in the relationship. In fact, the difficulties of the relationship are what is going to force you. Either you leave, right? Which is what most of us choose to do, or you change. You allow the difficulty to soften your heart, to broaden your heart, to make you more compassionate, to make you more understanding. You learn to forgive. You have to, right? You learn to, right? This is what we're learning here. They allow the relationship to change them. They allow the relationship to transform the lead of their immaturity into pure gold, right? So the two together, right? Sticking it out is not enough. You have to also have the humility to change. And so even though they have all these imperfections, and this is good news for those of us who are clumsy lovers, right? If you have no skills, it's enough. The text is telling you, it's enough. You stick with it and you learn. You're humble enough to learn from your beloved what you need to change, and you will become a master lover. Now, when it comes to what, I forgot who it was. Hakimian, was it you? The abusive relationship or difficult relationships. Who was that? Who asked me this question? Was it Hakimian?
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, yeah, exactly, right? So the meaning, this is why we are taught, right? When something goes wrong, we need to separate, right? The Hebrew context, however, is talking about a very different definition of love. This is a love which is undeserved, right? Now, this is very difficult when you're dealing with a difficult person, right? There is nothing harder than being married to a difficult person. All the text is saying is giving us an orientation as to how to do that, right? The text seems to be saying that if you love in this way, as the woman does, transformation can occur. That's all the text is saying, right? The text is not, this is the difference between the Song of Songs and the rest of the Bible. The rest of the Bible is saying, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. Song of Songs is saying, here's a story, right, of a difficult relationship, right? The man is cheating, or maybe thinking about cheating. This is one of the worst things, right? And yet we see how this woman works the relationship, right? The woman is really the one who is teaching us here, right? We are seeing how she works the relationship. So the story is an invitation. It's not telling us to do it. It's an invitation. Should you choose to stay? Nobody's forced to stay, right, in a difficult relationship. But suppose you are bound to that person, or you sense they're the one, or you have children with them, or you want to stay, but you don't know how. The text is giving us some tools, right? So this is really a text. If you want to stay, here is a story. Here is some wisdom for you to work. And we are invited to experiment, right? There's, of course, no guaranteed success, and we have to sense when it is right to leave. And we'll talk about this also with Kierkegaard. But the text is simply saying, if you want to stay, here are some tools. Here's some wisdom. Look what she did. Try it, right? And see what happens. So, Hakimian, I would just say, everything is up to you. But if you want to choose to stay, you do have some resources now that you can experiment with. That's it. Does that answer your question, Hakimian? A little bit?
Yeah, thanks.
So now we'll talk about hope, which is really what the woman is exercising here. We'll go deeper into this notion of difficult relationship when we get to Kierkegaard and we talk about hope and the power of hope and how long should we hope. And so then we'll come back to your question, Hakimian, towards the end. Yes, the notion of healthy, right? So again, right, we need to develop, right? We need to develop. What we're seeing in this text is, what I need to point out, so we're very clear, is that the woman is not a victim. She doesn't present herself as a victim. We are not dealing here with a situation where the woman is suffering and is a victim. Why? Because the woman is very clear on what she wants. And this is one of the keys here, right? If you're dealing with a difficult relationship, often we shut down, right? And so the woman in the text is teaching us an approach where we are able to be vulnerable and at the same time effectuate change, right? She's very clear on her desires. She never accepts that the man is cheating, right? So we're not talking about her, what's the word they say in psychotherapy? Enabling, right? The woman is not enabling by believing in her love, right? because she's actually working towards shifting the relationship, right? So we think she's enabling, but actually she has a deeper strategy. This is what we don't see. When you go see your therapist and the therapist watches you still in the relationship and this is going on, and the therapist will tell you, you are enabling this situation. You are enabling it if you have shut down, and if you have said nothing, and if you're not hoping anymore, and if you are not relinquish control, you're enabling, yes. But if you have a strategy, like the woman in the Song of Songs, you're staying, but you have a strong focus where you want to go. I think there might be a different development in your relationship. Does that make sense, Aguirre? Do you see how the woman, in a way, even though she's suffering, she's not a victim in the situation. She has a powerful strategy. She has results, in fact. Does that make sense, Aguirre, a little bit?
Yeah, it does make sense because, you know, in the beginning I thought that maybe it wasn't really healthy for her to stay there, even though like they had a lot of challenges and a lot of problems and a lot of stuff going on. So maybe I thought that it would not be healthy, but then looking at it from another point of view, as you said, she was having a strategy and she was having like she had a plan the whole time, letting us know that it wasn't like basically everything had a result in the very end.
Exactly.
And she got what she wanted.
Exactly. The woman has a very powerful vision of where she wants to go. And this is what we often give up on, right? We fall into despair, and at that moment we fall into victim, right? The woman is never a victim in the text. She has chosen to be there. She is aware of her suffering, but she's vocal about what she wants. She tells a man what she wants, right? And at the same time, she is strong enough to stand her ground. There is enormous power in that woman, right? That we often lose when we just fall into despair, or we say nothing, or we give up, right? The woman actually in the relationship, even though she's suffering, it's true, there's a lot of underlying pain in the relationship, she stands her ground and her heart is strong, right? And she has a vision. These are the three assets, right, that make her anything but a victim, right? That you're suffering doesn't mean you're a victim. By the way, let's be clear on that, right? The fact that you're suffering doesn't mean you're a victim. You can choose to suffer and go through something and, you know, drink the cup till the end. It can be a choice to live with that person and to try to work things out, right? So suffering doesn't mean necessarily that you're a victim. You can have chosen this, you can have a strategy, and you can be working it, right? Yes, love and pain go hand in hand, Kumar. Get used to it, guys. Very good. Any other questions? I don't even know, what is the time? Any other objections or questions? Okay. All right, so you have a nice weekend with no work. Let me stop the recording briefly and we'll talk about the work.